Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. It's a new year. Captain America's still the same. Master of Hair still the same. Strat Daddy's still the same. But we're ready to crush this year. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We have another awesome guest on today. For those of you local, you've seen him before. Mr. Michael Burns. He put away his muscles, but he's still drinking a muscle milk. Real quick about me. My name's Stratton Brown. I own a company called Virtual Help. We own a small seven-figure real estate portfolio. We help real estate investors get virtual assistants in their business. And real estate has been absolutely amazing for me. It's helped me change my life. It covers all of our house bills now through passive income. Today is the first, so everybody gets all those nice little wires coming in if you got a portfolio. And our goal here is to help you build a business that you love and want. We bring on some of the best entrepreneurs from around the country in the real estate space to talk about how they've built their business and their portfolios. I will pass it off to the master of hair with the hair heron today, Mr. Jason Pritchard.
Hair's out today, boys. Decided to start the new year off right, dude, and get it ready for this new episode, man. How's everybody doing? It's your other co-host, Jason Pritchard. Quick backstory on me: I worked in corporate America for 15 years. I burned the boats and went all in real estate in 2014. Have not looked back since. We've done north of 400 deals. Own a rental portfolio of just over 100 units, mainly here in Central California. And like Strat said, our goal with this pod is to try to transfer and share as many of the things that we've learned to all of you guys that are tuning in, so you guys can pick up on our mistakes, our learning lessons. Really excited to have our guest on today, man. Ton of stuff to share. Go over to Dean. Dean can intro himself and then bring Michael on.
Real quick, Dean. Show him your titties. Show him your chest. Let's see it real quick. Show him the merch. Yeah. Look at that. It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
It looks good, man. I'm excited. It's fun to walk around with it. I wear it at the gym. I wear it around the house, all that kind of stuff. So we got some good stuff for people. We got a lot of great supporters. So it's fun to be able to share that with other people. So guys, I'm your other co-host, Dean Rogers here. I started my career in the NFL, and then I transferred to corporate. And then I got into real estate, been doing real estate investing the past decade now in Central California. We've done over 600 deals, have a rental portfolio of almost $10 million, and coaching students with the wholesaling playbook. And you guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
And your content's been sexy lately. You've been putting a lot
it's been getting better, man. I mean, content is, people think you can just stand in front of a camera and just make a bunch of stuff, but you got to put a lot of thought into it. Like a lot of thought, especially if you're wanting to consistently put out content every day. Yep. I was just talking about that with my dad just before I got on, and I'm like trying to involve my kids a lot more. And I'm like, dude, there's so much I can do with this, and I just need to put so much more thought into it. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. And then we have Mr. Don't Be a Little Bitch, Mr. Max Out, Mr. Muscles, Michael Burns. Thanks for coming.
What's up, Strat Daddy? No, it's I appreciate you guys having me, man. I was at the gym working out when you asked me if I could hop on, and said let's roll.
Hell yeah, bro. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. Tell us a little bit about over like 30,000 foot view, and then we'll dig into a bunch of other stuff.
Okay, cool. So I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Been in the real estate game for about 12 years now. So we probably flip 40, 50 homes a year, and then do a little bit of wholesaling, not much, because we're primarily looking to take down our own deals and keep them. We've got a rental portfolio, a little over 60 units that we self-manage, do some hard money lending. Got a real estate brokerage, Lifestyle Realty. Lifestyle Lending is the mortgage lending company. And then starting to dabble in just some other investments. Like I was telling you guys earlier off camera, I got equity owner in a medical spa, and starting to place some money into different business opportunities, and just out here hustling, trying to figure it out, man.
Oh yeah, bro. How did you get started flipping?
So I did my first flip. So let me think how I want to enter this. So I was selling trees. Like I just moved to Utah, and I was selling like plants.
He said he was selling trees.
Yeah.
What kind of trees were you selling?
Well, I mean, once upon a time I was in that tree business too, but this was legitimate like horticulture. But No, dude. So I had this huge territory, like Western Canada and then 8 states in the US. And I wasn't old enough to rent a car. So I would like get in my car and go on 2-week road trips. I had to pay my own way. I had a 10% commission and just a huge opportunity. Really started with no customers. And so I was doing that for like 4 years, and I grew up kind of in that business. And then my brother asked me if I wanted to go to a house flipping workshop that was going to be happening that weekend. And it was Dean Grazioso was the guru rolling through Salt Lake at the time. So we went to his little free Thursday night thing, and then they sell you on the $1,500 weekend, class. It's that weekend or the next weekend, and then they roll you into the bus tours and all of that stuff. So we went to that. That's what sparked my interest in it. And then we joined the SLRIA, Salt Lake Real Estate Investors Association. So we joined that, and it took us a year and 94 offers. Every time I'm speaking, I always like to reiterate that to the people who are listening. It literally took us 1 year of like working on deals, learning about it, going to meetings, writing offers. So a year and 94 offers, we got our first deal. And then that was probably in 2012. Flipped that. We made like 24 grand and some change and never looked back. Walked away from my tree business and just been full blown real estate.
Sorry, when we raise our fingers, it's for us to remind each other that the next person is going to.
Okay, I thought that was a question. So, anyways, that's how I got into real estate. Did my first deal a little over 10 years ago, and here we are.
So I got it wrong. I said 100K on the first deal. I was completely off. I guess there was 50K on the second deal.
Yeah, deal 2, we lost about 50 G's on it, but we've got some 6-figure losses in there, especially this 2022. We took a bath on probably 3 or 4 properties over 100,000 plus losses, just because our market in Salt Lake, depending on whose list you looked at, we're at the top market in the country, and we were 20% year over year, and rates just broke our back hard. So yeah, man, we've taken some big L's. That's part of the game, though.
Question I have for you, because I know I'm interested to hear how you've navigated this year, because I know it's been a tough year, especially beginning of 2023 was tough for a lot of people. Did the tree selling experience translate over to real estate? Were there things that you've learned? Because a lot of times I feel like, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, I came from a sales background. So as soon as I got in the business, all of those instincts kicked in for me. Was that the same thing for you, or was it like, did you have to learn everything from square one?
I mean, I didn't know anything about anything when it came to real estate. Like, for real, I couldn't, if you put me in a Home Depot, number one, I did not want to be there. It's the last place I wanted to be. And now I'm like, let's roll to Home Depot. But I like as green could possibly be. But I learned, I was real good at sales because I did that on the phone for a while. And then when you're out cold calling nursery guys, I mean, you just get kind of good at talking to people. But the other part was because I was just a 1099 independent contractor, I had this huge territory, but no customers. And that was also in like 2008, 2009. So I had this big opportunity, and I was just too dumb to realize how bad, like, the whole world was on fire. I just didn't get it. So I'm just out there grinding. So the ability to be disciplined and keep your own schedule and, get in the car and go hit the road for 2 weeks at a time and sleep in my car and make 250 cold calls, that's invaluable experience. It really helped me out a lot. So I think just the discipline and being able to be self-starting and have hard conversations, be in uncomfortable situations. And then at the end of the day, just having sales skills, but really sales skills is people skills, just learning. And that's helped a ton with whether I'm buying a house, negotiating with a realtor or a seller, you're dealing with a contractor, negotiating terms, or trying to, do whatever you're doing with them. So those are the skills that transferred over. But outside of that, and then credit, I was raised, not so much that I learned about credit, but I was fortunate that my parents put a big emphasis on credit and having good credit. So when I got in the real estate business, I had good credit, which gave me more opportunities because I had access to money and different things like that.
I always say this, and I'm glad that you started with this, because I've felt like that experience for me was invaluable, being commission-based, eating what you kill. Like, it really builds the foundation. Because the people that are listening, like the first nugget that Michael dropped was 1 year and 94 offers, right? So 94 for sure no's, and you probably got thousands of other no's outside of those written offers that you, and most people just are not prepared for the amount of rejection that you're going to deal with when you get into this business. And so I've always felt people that have those good, intangible, ethical sales professionals can transition easily over to real estate investing. Cause I'm same as you, bro. Like I didn't know anything. I didn't know the first damn thing about fixing a house or doing anything, but I knew how to sell. And that's what got me through that first year, dude. Cause it would have been very hard not having that background.
Well, the first offer we, formally wrote and put on paper and everything kind of reminded me of my first sales call that I made. So the first like outside sales call on the road, I got my territory, I'm all excited. And then I pull up to the first spot and it's like, oh fuck, I actually have to like go work now. I go in and say hi to somebody and make a friend and hopefully a client. But I remember sitting there in the car and I was just like, it's that I had to pump myself up for probably 10 minutes, and like, cause I'm young back then. And I was young when I started in real estate too. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have to get started. So I had to get out of the car. I had to go ask for the owner or the manager or whatever. And just remembering how scared and intimidated I was, even though I'd done it over the phone thousands of times, it's different that first time in person. So then it's funny talking about it now because I remember our first offer, dude. I was nervous. Like, and it was a dog shit offer. We had zero, and I mean zero chance of our offer being accepted. But just sitting there almost hoping they don't accept it. Because I'm like, shit, what if they do accept it? What are we gonna do? We don't have money to buy it. I don't know how to host. Like, I don't have buyers. What am I gonna do? So, but it's like getting through that fear and just doing it anyways is such a huge part of starting anything. But then also I remember when we got the response from that first offer, it was like, what is this, an unwelcomed joke? And then I was like, oh, I'm still alive. That wasn't even that bad, and then you just keep going. But I thought that would be, for so many people who are on the fence with the getting started part, there's multiple steps to this. There's one is getting started, but you can't even experience adversity or hear a no until you start. So those getting started and hearing a no are two things that it's non-negotiable. If you can't handle that, like, just don't even try.
So it took you a year. Was it 93, 94 offers, right?
94. Yeah.
You had some sales experience before that, right? So it's not like you were just dead broke, sitting on the couch, YouTubed how to get started in real estate or found some random ad. Like, you'd already been putting some work in. During that year, were you like discouraged? Were you frustrated? Like, kind of walk us through what you were feeling during that time and what ended up leading you to the deal. Did you improve your skills? Did you just finally start doing the right thing? Like, what was it that actually helped you get that first deal?
I think it's a combination of everything. What kept me motivated was, before we did a deal, is like, I remember we go to the monthly RIA meetings, and at the beginning of the meeting, Randall, who used to run it or whoever, he'd say, hey, who's done a deal this month? And what kept me motivated, dude, was I wanted to raise my fucking hand and say I did a deal this month. And I remember me and my brother, I'd be like, dude, we're gonna have 2 deals, bro. At the next meeting, we're gonna be able to say, we got 2 deals going. And that's why environment is so important, guys. Like the environment you put yourself in, and that's, your guys' podcast. And I spoke at your group in Fresno, and what you guys are doing and creating the environment for people is a really big deal, because without those environments, I would have never made it. But no, man, it was just wanting to do it. It's like, I think once I made the decision that I wanted to be a real estate investor and I'm showing up and putting my time and effort in, it's just not quitting. And then also too, it's, I think, just not quitting. And I'm a pretty competitive guy, and I was starting to hate what I was doing too. So a combination of learning. Every meeting I learn a little bit more. I started talking to guys at the club, and I'd go check out their flip. So I remember a guy, Luke Watkins, I met him, and this was before I had done a deal, and he was about a year ahead of me. And I met him, and he's like, yeah, dude, I got my, my first 2 flips going. And I was like, oh, hey, could I come check them out? So I went and walked the deal with him. And that first deal that I walked with Luke was so eye-opening for me, because this dude rolls up, bro. He's on a Harley that he literally got for free at the house that came with the house that he bought. He's got an LA Dodgers hat on. He's tattoos everywhere, just white t-shirt and jeans. And I was like, if this guy can do it, I can for sure do it. So I think being around, seeing other people do it makes it real for you. So that was part of it. And then just being on site and being in a house and seeing, you know, where he found the deal, how much his rehab was, what he was doing to it, why he was doing it, what the ARV was. And just being around it, the more that I was around it, the more confident that I was getting, but also the more that I wanted it. Like I just wanted it. And that's why I kept going. But if I didn't put myself in the environment where it was happening, I don't think I would have ever gotten anywhere. We wouldn't have made 10 offers, let alone 94.
There's so many nuggets, especially for new people that are listening, to pick up on. And I love how you said at the beginning where you didn't even know what the next step was, and you're almost hoping that the seller said no to your initial offer, right? And I felt like that. I'm sure lots of people are just like, damn, I'm going to make this offer, but deep down you're worried about what's next. And I think I remember you telling a story when you spoke at our group last year that your lender was somebody from the meetup group too, wasn't it? Like the guy that ended up being the first guy to fund some of your deals?
It was crazy. I'll tell the story of my first deal if we've got time, because I think it ties a lot of what Dean just asked together. So Slaria, like it was really well run when I was first going, and probably because you're newer, you don't know a lot. It's like, oh, this is a lot of information, but they would have quarterly seminars or whatever, and they'd have a topic and someone would teach it, or they'd bring someone in or whatever. So I just religiously showed up. I went to every lunch meeting, I went to every night meeting, and I was just around networking and just being in the environment. And it was one of those Saturday seminars that they were doing. And with the sales background, Jason, like we learned to talk to people and build relationships. And that's, you know, probably the biggest skill set I had was my ability to talk to people and just go up and say, hey, I'm Michael, what's up? You know? So there was this guy sitting in the corner, older guy, probably early 60s, kind of a nerdy dude, glasses, timid guy. And him and his wife were just literally sitting in the corner. So I went up and said, hey, I'm Michael, what's going on? How you guys doing? And turns out him and his wife had just sold their small business to IBM. I don't think they made like some 20, 30 million exit, but they definitely had some, you know, 7 figures for sure. And he's like, yeah, I'm retired. I just sold my company. We actually live in Cedar City, which is 3 hours south of Salt Lake. We decided to come up here. And because I was in the right environment, I was meeting the right people. And he's like, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, what are you looking to do? And he's like, we want to get into hard money lending. And I was like, oh, well, that's great. I'm actually looking for hard money lenders. Me and my brother are getting into flipping, and my brother was there. So I introduced him and I got his information. And really everyone pay attention, especially the newer people. And this is the sales scene coming with follow-up. Like they buy or they die is what you learn when you're doing sales. So this was on a Saturday. So, you know, I got his info, gave him my card or whatever. And then the next following week I called him. Picked up the phone, called him, because I knew this guy had money. He wanted to lend it, and I needed money, even though I didn't have deals. But all these guys were telling me you need to raise money when you don't have a deal. So I'm literally just showing up and doing what I'm told, one step at a time. So I called Gary, and I was like, hey, Gary, it's great to meet you. Just wanted to follow up. I'd love to set a lunch for you, and just really would like to connect with you and build a relationship. You know, I know you mentioned you're into wanting to start lending hard money, and that's definitely something my brother and I are looking to build relationships with. And he was like, hey, me and my wife are actually going to come be visiting my kids and grandkids in a couple of weeks, because they lived south from us. He's like, so we're going to be up there in a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was. Let's do lunch then. So I followed up with this dude and scheduled a lunch with him, and he just happened to be coming back up. So fast forward like 2 weeks, it's Friday night, late, like 9 o'clock at night. I get a phone call. Here's another quick tip: answer your phone. Like, don't ever not answer your phone. It's the stupidest thing you could do ever.
I love that.
Realtors, answer your fucking phone, if you're a realtor especially. But anyway, so this guy calls me, I answer the phone, and he's like, hey man. And again, I met this dude at Slaria too, and he was a wholesaler, but he had a deal that had fallen apart. He's like, the buyer's bailed. Are you interested in it? And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'd love to see it. He's like, okay, can you meet me tomorrow morning? So I was like, cool. I show up the next morning. Meanwhile, I have a lunch with Gary scheduled Saturday, that afternoon. So Saturday morning, I'm in a foot of snow in Utah in the winter. It's like December, November, January, sometime like that. And I'm walking the deal with this wholesaler. And I don't know, I still don't know anything about anything. So like, I'm like, oh, the ARV's 285. Sounds great. You think it'll be 40? Really, bro? All right, yeah, cool. 40 for the rehab. All right, right on. Oh, you got a contractor that looked at it and gave you a bid? Sounds great. Like, I don't know shit about anything. I take this dude's word on all the numbers. And he's like, here's the thing, man. So he's like, are you interested? I'm like, yeah. He's like, here's the thing. It has to close Monday, and it's Saturday. I've never done a deal. And I'm like Monday, like in the next business day, he's like, yeah, it's got to close Monday. Otherwise the deal's dead. I'm like, okay, let me get back to you. So I leave there and I call my brother on the way to lunch and I'm like, yo, bring Nija, who is like my 6-month-old nephew at the time. I'm like, it's going to look good. So my brother's bringing his newborn son. We're rolling in. We go to Marie's Calendars and we sit down for probably an hour and a half, have a meeting with Gary and his wife. And I don't mention the deal at all. We're like literally, all right, cool, good to meet you. You know, like, let's definitely keep in touch. And we're like getting up. Bill is paid. I'm like getting up, walking away. And there was just this voice, and it's like, it's now or never, dude. It's now or never. And I'm like, we have a deal. It probably sounded that abrupt and ridiculous. And he's looking at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, we have a deal. I wasn't sure. And then he's like, well, let's sit down and talk about it. Probably the most, I'd probably be terrified if I were to watch this thing on video. It had to have been rough, like super rough. But anyways, we sit back down. I go over the deal with him and I tell him everything that the wholesaler told me, the ARV, the rehab, what we're doing, all the shit. Oh yeah, we got a contractor. And then I got to the punchline that it has to close on Monday, Gary. And he looks at me like, what this guy's either like, what is, just like looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's not how you do anything. So he calls me, he's like, let's talk about it. So he calls me and my brother 2 hours later and he says, Michael, we're going to take a chance on you and your brother. And he funded that deal. And it kind of gets me a little bit because that literally changed my entire life, was that whole thing that I just talked to. But if I didn't overcome fear and I didn't show up and be in the environment and I didn't go say hi and I didn't follow up and I didn't build relationships and I didn't answer my phone, like just showing up and doing is why my life is where it is today with that one first deal.
Absolutely fire. That was a great story.
So a little long-winded, but
too.
Huh?
And it speaks to meetups too, because everybody like kind of,
dude,
they're so powerful.
That's what I was going to come back to. Like, I think one of the biggest nuggets you drop there is a lot of people get caught up trying to figure out the details. You know, there's a lot, the business is simple, but there's a lot of little details, right? And the more that you're just around people that are doing it, you're going to exponentially grow and grow faster. And we all say it. I hear it over and over and over again, is that if that guy can do it, I can do it too. Like, you're going to have that aha moment over and over and over again. So that's such a big part of just going in person, being around other people.
Yeah, I mean, probably my first 10 deals, every part of the deal came from that Slaria group, whether it was the wholesaler, the lender, my title lady who I've used for 12 years, like literally every part of that deal, my attorney, the insurance guy, everyone was part of that group.
You know what was cool too, dude, that I picked up on just hearing this story again, was that I think you showed up and didn't know all the next steps, but you took that first step, which is really important. But you listened to your universe, God, you're into whatever you want to call it, dude, right? You listened to that, and that has always proven to steer me in the right direction. Every time I've deviated from that feeling or that little like, hey, I should go talk to this guy in the back. Dude, if you hadn't listened to that little voice in your head that said, go talk to the guy in the back, you never do that deal. If you hadn't listened to that voice in your head when you're walking out of Marie Calendar saying, why don't you talk to the guy about the deal? You're never going to do it. You know what I mean? And so I think it's everybody, Dean said it, everybody wants to know the entire roadmap step by step, but it's been proven to me that the exact opposite is true. The people that find the most success just take that first step with faith, and then everything else will present itself after you get there, man. So that was good.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Ed Milet says, tie your confidence to the work, the work and your intentions. And it's like, if you're going to show up and you're going to be doing all the things that I talked about, like showing up, doing the work, being in the right environment, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and for me, it was 94 offers because I guess the real estate gods wanted to see if I was serious or not. But
bro, so you did that. How did that second deal go that you did end up losing money? Because I think a lot of people are afraid of this. And the only way to get out of a bad deal is to do more deals. Is like the best way. Because if that is your skill and that's the way you generate money, you have to go do more deals to do yourself out of that hole. And so, like, how did you rebuild your confidence? The confidence to go out and raise money again, do more deals? How'd that conversation with the investor go? Because these are all things that do happen.
I mean, well, So we had that second deal, which we lost 50 G's on, but I also had deal 3, 4, and 5 all rolling too. So I just, I kind of, when I'm doing, I bit off way more than I could chew. But the second deal, the reason we lost money was, number one, at the time it was like a 550,000 like ARV, 550 ARV, and at the time in Salt Lake, that's
big in
probably a
Salt Lake at that time.
$1.2 million house. So, and it was like, I think we spent 75 on that, maybe 80 G's. So number one, I was doing a deal that I had no business doing. Like, when you're new, you should not be doing $80,000 rehabs. Yeah, equivalent to today, that's like 120, 150 grand rehab, like taking out walls. Like, I shouldn't have been doing the deal. But then also there's just a lot of stuff that you don't know what you don't know, especially when you're new. So like, I didn't understand that a 1-car garage on a house in that area at that price point was a problem. I also didn't understand that a singular driveway with the 1-car garage at the end creates a scenario where you have like just stacked up parking one behind another. I didn't understand that would, or even think that would be a problem. The neighbor, it was on a cul-de-sac, and the neighbor across the street, like, the house is basically condemned and looked like shit. And I'm just like, oh, we're in Sugar House, we're in a nice area. Like, I wasn't thinking that the neighbor on the other side of the cul-de-sac is going to be a deterrent to potential buyers. There's just so much shit that you just don't know. And that same deal, if I would have done everything the same and just taken one wall out, I probably would have made money, at least broke even. But you don't know, so like on that second deal, the biggest thing that I learned was layouts. So today I'll put myself up against anyone, dude. Like, I'm fucking good at layouts because I've lost a lot of money for having bad ones. So there's, from the learning side, there's just a lot of stuff that you don't know what you don't know. And the problem with real estate is, and a lot of things in general, is you can't plan for that. You can't read it in a book. You can't learn it at a seminar. Like, so much of real estate is just deal by deal, random shit coming up, and you cross the bridge when you get there, and then you forever know that lesson moving forward. But dude, we were in a jam, bro. Like, I had $50,000 of my dad's money on that deal that I borrowed. I had my entire life savings of like 30 grand plus the money we just made on the other one in it. And, I've got these hard money lenders, which when you're brand new in real estate, like, that's kind of intimidating. You got these fucking loan sharks that, they're calling you on their money, or, they don't want to release draw requests and stuff. So like, it was just one of those scenarios where I was just so balls deep in it that there was like, what are you going to do? Like, quit? Like, quitting's not an option. I got 50 grand of my dad's money I'm responsible for. I quit my real estate, or my sales, my tree sales thing. Like, I'm in real estate. This is what I'm doing. I'm not going back to school. So it was one of those scenarios where it was just, I had to figure it out, and I had to man up and do it, because it's like, what else am I going to do? I'm not going to go work for someone. I'm not going to go back to school. I'm not going to burn my dad for, lose his money. Like, none of those things were an option. So you just figure it out. And
so did you just front the check or you make up the money from the other deals, or how did you structure that loss?
Dude,
and what did that conversation even sound like?
Well, there was a process of even getting in a position for it to be a loss. Like, we couldn't even sell anything, dude. We were 180 days on market. This is 2012, 2013. It was rough. But what you said earlier, Strat, literally the only thing that kept us going is every Saturday, me and my brother would meet up, and we would go drive to all the estate sales that were happening in Salt Lake County. And we're showing up to the estate sale, saying, hey, what's up with the house? Like that. If you want to have a fun conversation with people, go do that. Anyways, dude, so we would go do estate sales, and then we would drive for dollars, bro. We'd just drive around and just driving for dollars. And we would get bright colored sticky notes like this one, but they were this size. And we just write on there, hey, I want to buy this house, pay cash as is, no fees, call me if you're interested. And we put out hundreds of them every weekend. And we ended up wholesaling 3 deals doing that while we had those 4 properties I just talked about. We took losses on all of them. And the only way we were able to keep surviving, paying bills, and get through that whole thing was because of those 3 wholesale deals. We made 50 G's on them 20 on 2 of them and 10 on 1. And I'm a firm believer that just because I kept showing up, law of attraction, God, energy, whatever you want to call it, like I just kept showing up and doing the work. And I was going to keep my name and my word and my integrity no matter what. I wasn't going to burn people for money, especially my dad. So, I mean, plan B was reinforcing plan A. That's literally where I coined that phrase. And that's kind of like how I roll my life. Like plan B is reinforcing plan A. Like this is what we're doing.
And I think
Dude,
it
I love
talks
that.
about
Plan B
now,
is reinforcing plan A.
right? And now it like speaks into like managing your cash flow with your companies too. Because sometimes like money can get tight, and especially when you're flipping, seeing Jason's mortgage payments freak me out. Where it's like how much money's going in, how much money's going
I
out.
just
and like
approved all of them today. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Yep.
And having to manage that, no, okay, we got to have some type of cash coming in just in case something does happen or if anything else does go bad. Because as you get bigger, you take on more deals. You want to have something liquid to be able to cover that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, access to credit and money is the only way anyone in real estate is ever going to make it, you know. So like going back, that's why one of the first things I mentioned in the call was my parents teaching me about credit. It's like I got so lucky with that because I had good credit, but I also kind of understood it. Like my parents would borrow money from a credit line to get us through the winter because we're in the nursery business. Like no one's buying plants and shit. We'd sell Christmas trees and firewood, and outside of that, like it's dead for 3-4 months. So I just was around that and kind of like not like learned it a lot, but I was just aware of it. So I got lucky in that way. And then just having the risk tolerance to go take out credit, understanding that I'm going to have to pay this shit back. But a lot of it just comes down to doing it, man. Like it's all the information, it's all there. You're either going to do it or you're not, but I think another thing why a lot of people aren't successful or they fail or they don't get where they want to go is they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that's not going to work, especially in a high pressure situation. You're either all in or you're not at all.
But what did the switching gears look like for you, bro? Like, I mean, obviously this sounds like a rough start, right? Like you made some dough on your first one, right? And then you get kicked in the teeth a bunch of times, like for a year straight, it sounds just trying to offload this deal.
There was 4 of them. Yeah. And we had contractor problems in the middle, like firing guys, having to get new guys seeing that we're younger, inexperienced, trying to take advantage of us. So all of that. So my negotiating and sales skills and the ability to have hard conversations, that really helped out with that a lot too. But dude, like no joke. Because we would have, I mean, those first like 4 or 5 deals, like 120, 180 days on market for sure. All of them were, we didn't have money for the gas bills. So I would keep the heat at like 50, enough to not freeze pipes. And I swear to you, I would get a call for a showing and I would drive over and crank the furnace up and I'd wait down the street, watch the showing. The second they're leaving, dude, I'm blowing that agent up. Dude, I'll do whatever, sexual favors, give me an offer. I don't care. Like, what do we need to do? We're contractors. We can make any adjustment they want to this. Like and then I go back in and turn the heat back down because we couldn't even afford the utilities. That's a true story. I remember being in Hawaii. My dad took us all to Maui, and I was just like hating life because we had these properties. They're like just hoping someone, you get one showing a week maybe on all the deals, just one showing only, and just like praying. But it was tough, dude. It was really tough. But like I think that anything that you start is going to be hard. If it's the entrepreneur route, that's why not everybody's doing it.
When did it start to actually turn around, bro?
Oh, yeah.
Not have these piles of shit.
Sorry, that was a question. So when we hit those 3 wholesale deals that had some money coming in. So then we brought in 50 G's between those. And so I took 25, my brother took 25. A lot of it just went into it. And thankfully our money wasn't set up to where we had to make monthly interest payments. It was all due on the back end. So it was just doing that. And then during that process, I got my real estate license so I could just list our own stuff, have access to the MLS and comps and all of that. And I was driving down. I used to have a rule. If I saw a for sale by owner sign, I would pull over and call it at the very least. Ideally, I should go knock on it. And it was a Saturday. I was cruising down and I saw a for sale by owner doing an open house. I pulled over. It was this East Indian guy named Hem. And I told him he wouldn't take my cash offer. And I was like, well, I'll list it for you. I'm a realtor. And he said, okay, will you do it for I think I did it for 1.5% or something. So I sold that house pretty quick. It was like super entry level, 2700 South, where that's out in Salt Lake Strat. But And I remember getting that commission, and I was like, I had this was no pressure, I have none of my own money. I didn't have to do any work at all. And then, so that's when I started, I was like, this real estate agent thing seems cool too. So, cause that was my first commission I had ever made that wasn't involved with one of our deals. So then I started doing some real estate agent work, and I was just hustling, man. So we did those wholesale deals. I did a couple real estate agent deal transactions. And then we ended up getting out of selling all of those properties. Finally, we lost like 50 G's on the second deal we ever did. And then we lost like 12 on the third one. We broke even on the fourth, and I think we lost like 20-ish on the fifth. And then after that, like things were getting better, and we had other projects and did some other wholesales, and we kind of got out of it. But it was super gnarly for probably October to springtime.
And did you just not buy right? Like, what happened with all those deals?
Dude, I just think I think not knowing what I was doing, hard money, going over budget was part of the problem. I think the biggest issue I ran into was under calculating my hard money costs. So like hard money loans, usually out in Utah, like it's a 6-month loan, you're paying 2-3 points and 12% interest. But one thing that I didn't understand up front is if you go past 6 months, they'll extend the loan. I didn't understand that was another 3 points to extend for another, 90 days or 6 months or whatever the terms were. So the points and the extension fees and then just the interest just ate us alive on those deals. That was the biggest issue. And then my second biggest issue that I learned through that process is not dropping my prices fast enough, because I was emotionally tied to the property and emotionally tied to the money in the property. So when you're sitting here looking at a house and you're like, okay, well, if I sell it for list price, I'm going to lose $15,000. And that's if I get what I'm asking for it now, no closing costs and stuff. So when you're sitting there and you're brand new and you're broke and you're trying to process list price is a loss of 15 and I need to drop it another 25, that's hard to do. It's like mentally really hard to to get yourself to do, because it's like, fuck, now best case scenario just went from 15 to the $35,000 loss or whatever it is. That was hard too. So I didn't do that quick enough. So you're going to have to drop your price regardless at some point. If you're overpriced in a market, you're overpriced. So like, not only did I drop my price when I should have, but I also like paid all the interest and points and extensions along the way, not wanting to drop the price, So that was one of the big lessons I learned. And then layouts more than anything. I had bad layouts on a couple of those properties. So it didn't matter how great the location was, didn't matter how nice the rehab was. The layouts weren't what they needed to be. And, that cost me a bunch early on. So that's why today, like, layouts is probably the thing that I'm the strongest and best at. And it's for that reason.
Bro, this is a masterclass for anybody who is just getting started on how to overcome adversity and learn from your lessons and implement consistently to just take those next steps. Because most people would have given up is the big thing.
Dude, I'm crying, bro. Fuck, I lost dad's money. What am I going to do? I don't want to get a job. I'm not going back to school. What am I going to do? I don't want to sell trees again. It's just like go through that whole mental process. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I really, one of the most valuable things I learned through there is you cannot be emotional about deals, period. Doesn't matter how good or how bad it is. Like you can't be emotional, because that just makes everything so much worse. You make bad decisions. You start operating from fear. You just can't do that.
When did things start to click where you felt like you were making it, right? Because then, like, you had a rough patch initially, right? But then you've got to persist and, like you said, just figure out how to push through adversity. Then things have to start clicking. And then you hit a season, I feel like, where it's like, oh shit, this is working. And I actually think like I can see myself doing it. And then you really start to get some momentum. So was that year 3 or 4 for you, or like how long did it take to hit that?
Yeah, I would say there was the year of just trying to get a deal, right? And then there was probably 2 really hard years of just, tough lessons. And that first deal we made 24 grand, and you get a little bit of an ego. You think you found this new thing. You assume everything's going to go right. You think you know what you're doing. Kind of like a lot of people probably experienced the last 4 or 5 years in this market. You could have done everything wrong and still made money. So I would say, once we got out of those, this is another thing that I'll say. when you go through major adversity and you overcome a serious issue like the shit that I'm just talking about, like, well, I mean, like serious, I guess that's, you can put that in perspective. But for my real estate investing career, that was a massive problem and process. But when you go through that and you get on the other end of it and you realize you survived it and everything is okay and you kept your name and your value and your integrity, there's a level of confidence. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. There's a level of confidence that you cannot buy, you cannot learn. Like the confidence that I had in myself getting through those scenarios. And I've had 3 really specific situations like that in my career. When I got on the other end of these gnarly situations, it's like I'm on a whole nother level. And that just, when your confidence is there and you know that worst case scenario just happened and you got through it and everything's cool, it gives you that much more just confidence in yourself to go keep doing deals. I think that's why I kept doing deals. Number one, I had to, but then secondly, I remember when I was on the other side of it and I was just thinking, shit, dude, I made it. Like, it was exciting because I'm like, I can handle a lot, like, and so it was a lot easier to be out there aggressive and putting in offers and talking to people and raising money and just doing all the things. Cause it's like, at that point I'm still new, but I'm kind of seasoned, I've been through some shit and got on the other side of it. And that alone was probably the most momentum propelling thing, more than like doing other deals or the next flip or whatever it was.
I was listening to Hormozy on a podcast and he was talking about Charlie Munger had just passed away. And he was like giving his lessons on what he learned from just, observing Charlie over his career. And one of the things that he said is that dumb people learn from dumb people don't learn from their mistakes. Smart people learn from their own mistakes. And like the ultra successful learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and I saw that was really profound and I thought it was really interesting. I've gone through some really, really rough times. I'm sure we've all gone through things that have made us like stronger men on the other side of it. Do you think that it's possible to learn adversity like that from somebody else, like hearing you talk about it? And does that transfer the same way? Or do you feel like people really need to have their feet held to the fire and deal with some of those rock bottom moments to come out on the other side like you did?
I got a long answer for you. So I think that the reason I do coaching and masterminds and invest in being in the different groups and stuff is because you can learn so much from others. So you might as well do that. It's like reading a book. You get someone's life work in a book. And so, yes, absolutely. You can avoid a lot of stuff, but there's absolutely no way to build grit without having to go through it. You can't buy grit. You can't learn it from someone else. No one else can tell you what the pressure's like when you wake up at 2 a.m. and you can't fucking breathe because the pressure and the stress and anxiety is so high. Like, you can't, the only way to do that is by going through it. Like, you can't substitute that one.
Yeah. Jason, me and you have talked about this too, about like you have to go through shit hitting the fan to like build that mental reserve too. And I think the confidence of it, like not just grit, but that I'm that fucking guy aspect of I can overcome these things no matter what happens.
Well, you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
But then when you know and you prove that to yourself, that's when you've earned the feeling.
Because you have this frame of reference that's different, I feel like, right? Because if it's like this was the worst possible case scenario and I did that, I mean, anything else besides this, I'm going to be able to figure out if I figured out the absolute worst. You know what I mean? And so that was like, for me with my accident, like, shit, I already did the hard part, dude. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's never going to be this bad ever again. So anything else that comes up, I will be able to figure out. So I agree. I think grit can't be transferred. I think you have to learn it and earn it through those type of things. That's a good answer.
What's cool about that though too is once you've been through a process like that and you kind of know what you know on that, because hindsight's always 20/20, right? So I've been in a really challenging time in the last couple of years with my personal shit going on in the market, losing a ton of money, gnarly divorce, all this stuff. And once you've gone through adversity a few times or you have a relationship with it, it's really cool because now when I'm in tough times, I maximize the tough times because I understand it's not forever. And I understand I'm not a bitch and I'm not a quitter. So like, I'm not going anywhere. So I have the confidence that number one, I'm going to get through it. But secondly, like I'm in it now. So I'm going to squeeze everything that I can out of the situation that I'm in via growth and lessons. And that's what's really cool too. Once you've kind of been through that a few times, it gives you confidence for the next go around. It's like, hey, I've been in a tight spot before. This pressure, this uncomfortness, this whatever feels familiar, and I know it's not forever. That has served me massively the last 2 years, like invaluable.
Fucking fired up.
Those are huge lessons. Now, when you talked about like finally feeling like you had made it, what were some of the actual things you were doing during those times to get to that point? Was it that you were just more time and consistency? Was it leveling up your skills? Had you like pivoted and were doing different strategies? What were the things that you did to put yourself in that position to actually feel like you'd made it?
I think it was the things that I developed while I was in it to get through it that I just kept doing, you know? So it's like, kept showing up to every meeting I could go to, kept networking, kept writing offers, kept driving for dollars, kept going to estate sales, kept calling for sell by owners, you know, joined a real estate team as a buyer's agent to get some income coming in because I saw commissions. I just doubled down and didn't quit, and I just kept going and just kept showing up. And then the more that you show up, the more information you have, the more networks and people you meet and all of that, just more opportunity comes. So I think the biggest thing is I just didn't stop. I just kept going.
That's
so
huge.
like coming out of that, I mean, I was from like a financial, what did I do to make money? I think the biggest thing that I added to being a real estate investor was also going and playing real estate agent and making some commissions, because that helped out quite a bit. You join a team, you get some leads, you're forced to call for sell by owners and stuff every morning. But just when you're showing up and you're in the game, I was just like, how do I make money? I need to make money today. I don't care if it's a wholesale deal, if it's, a paint and carpet flip, a major flip, a rental. I just needed to be transacting, because if I was in the game, then I had a chance at transacting, and transacting is what I had to do for money to happen. So ideally we were wanting to wholesale stuff. And that's why we had those 3 deals that got us through everything. I think, God and law of attraction, energy, and just all of that really, I mean, looking back, it's like, it's the only way that happens. I think we got lucky. I got lucky, but you can only get lucky if you're showing up.
It's a good point too. And I think we've all seen and been around lots of new people that have either made it or didn't make it in this business. And my personal experience has been with the newer investors. You can get a deal or a couple of deals under your belt, you get a little bit momentum, and then it's normal for there to be lots of peaks and valleys. And if you're operating from a place of desperation all the time financially, like I can't pay my rent and I can't put groceries in my position, like finding something, even if it's not real estate related, in your instance, it was still part of the business. But even if you got to go get a side hustle, or you got to go get a part-time job or whatever, you got to do something to pay your bills. Because if you're constantly worried about money every single day, it's going to project into all your interactions with your seller, and they'll pick up on that desperation.
Yep.
And it's going to counteract everything that you're going to do. Yeah. Right. And some people can just burn the boats and just make it happen. And other ones, they need to have something else kind of going on while they're getting to a place where they can be full-time in this business, dude. So that's good. That's really good insight and advice too.
One thing I'll say too, Dean, to give a more complete answer to what you asked, when we had these deals that we were wholesaling, I wasn't just like, let's sell it to the first dude that'll buy it. Like, I tried to leverage those deals to build relationships, or like get me in contact with people who, like, I leveraged those deals for more than just a wholesale fee. So I remember like one we sold to Matt and Greg Snade, was a father and son, and they were doing a lot of high end flips and shit. And we sold one to one of them in a higher end area. And I was like, hey, I'll sell it to you, but here's the deal. Like, I want to be able to walk the project. I want to be able to come check in on it. I'd love to see what you guys do with it. And I leveraged that deal, number one, for the relationship with them, but also for like being able to watch the deal go all the way through. So that was one thing that I was really kind of aware of, or try to be conscious of, is like, how can I maximize these deals, not just financially? Like what other benefit or relationship or skill set, or what other access can I get through these wholesale deals that we're selling? Because everyone wants a wholesale deal, you know what I mean? And that was one thing that really helped with building relationships. One of the guys ended up lending us money. I was able to walk these higher end nice flips. I ended up partnering with one of those guys, project managers down the road. So I think just constantly planting seeds as well through that.
Well, Mike, when did you start really going hard on mindset? Like, when did it start to click for you? Because when I first met you, you weren't as outward about it. And now you're really, really outward about it. And I think you speak about it very well.
I appreciate that, dude. Thank you. I don't know. I read my first, when I grew up, like my dad, I didn't have self-development or books or, like mastermind, none of that. That was all foreign. Like I didn't know anything about that. When I had my first inside sales job, before I went out on my own, a guy named Ken Dykes gave me the book, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And that was the first time I had ever been introduced to anything like that. And then also while him and I were reading that book together, he was like my mentor there. Another major thing that happened for me that ties into the mindset conversation and just self-development in general was I came into my cubicle one day and he had a computer printed out and it said 2 million on it sideways. And I was like, what is this? He's like, you're going to sell 2 million this year. And it had never been done before, especially by a first year rep. And I'm like 20 years old at this point. And dude, I hit 2 million. I did 2.1 million that year in sales. And I had this 2 million thing that I saw every day. And I'm reading this book that's talking about goals and visualization. And those two things coupled together when I'm 19, 20 years old. And then I set a company sales record that year being in inside sales. And like the next youngest person there was like in their early 30s and I was 20. That was very eye-opening to me. So that's when the whole self-development thing started. But I think mindset, as I got introduced to Grant Cardone and then Andy Frisella, those guys are pretty serious on mindset, but getting through those tough situations and understanding that it was my mindset that got me through it is really when I doubled down and understood the value of how important that was, because I'd be talking to people, what's going on? And it's like, oh dude, like you're not, I would all the time, people would say, even this last year, it's crazy to me. Like our market in Utah, we slid before everyone else. So summer of 22, like shit got bad for us. But I couldn't believe how many people were like, well, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do next? Like, what's next? What are you pivoting to? And I'm like, well, I'm a fucking real estate's what I do. What do you mean? What's next? Like, this is like what? So I think just the more that I have been around others and see how weak their mindset is, and then also seeing how much it served me as I've gone through, tough situations, it's just been one of those things that I feel has been a strong suit for me. So I've just, I don't know, double down on it. That's why I have Don't Be a Little Bitch in my office. And I'm just constantly reminding myself, I'll say all the time, I'm not a bitch. I'm not a quitter. Like things are really hard. I'm having a tough day. It's just like, I want to crawl in a hole and cry. I'm like, I'm not a bitch. I'm not a quitter. I'm not a bitch. I'm not a quitter. So it's just, I don't know. That would be my answer to that. I think it all started with that first book, and understanding like mindset and self-development was something different that most people aren't doing. And the more that I get around successful people or guys like you, that was a common trait that they all had was, mindset, self-development, sales, goals, listening to books, reading books, going to different things like that. So I think I've doubled down on personal development. Mindset's just probably my strong suit in that.
What did the pivots look like at the beginning of this year? I know obviously we didn't just jump ship and go find something new to do, right? But we had to, or were there adjustments, or was it just buying deeper and just readjusting for the market? Because I was similar to you. We were very flip heavy just because of the experience that we had the last couple of years. So,
Yeah.
And I've always been good at raising money. So we always were able to take deals down. That was never a problem. But we took a 6-figure loss in the first month of January of 2022. And that's never fun to write checks like that, dude. Right. Especially when, the going has been good for the last few years. So what did you do? Because your market did get hit pretty tough.
My biggest thing was like protect the downside first and foremost, and then look for the opportunities second. So more than anything, I'm like, I have to protect my investors' money. Like, I don't give a fuck about my money, but like, I have to protect my investors' money. Do not lose your investors' money. Like, that's my lifeline. Like I say all the time. I was at lunch today earlier with a guy, and I was like, dude, I'll cut my arm off before I burn an investor. Maybe not literally, but so that was my biggest thing, was just get out of the deals, protect the downside, really communicate with everyone involved, like my investors on the phone, constantly hitting them up before they're hitting me up. That was when when the alarm started going off to me and I'm like, the market's a problem. I have super heavy exposure. I had like 18 flips and like it went sideways fast. We dropped like 20%. That was what I did, was protect the downside, communicate with my investors, and protect my credit. It was my biggest thing. So I just want to get out of the deals. So I didn't buy anything. And that's really hard too. You talk about mindset when you have, you know, a 13-year record of making more money every single year than the year you did before and just slaying it. Just bought a Ferrari, got a dope house on the mountain, all this shit's going on. And then like, bang, dude, like the rug gets pulled from under you with a divorce in a market. It was a mindset that kind of like got me through that. But like, that's what I did, was just try to get out of these deals as best as I can. And then because I've got different streams of income and access to a lot of credit and capital, I was able to get through that. So, you know, like any real estate deal that I could do, any mortgage commission I could collect, and just doing the same thing that I've always done, is just executing at the highest level that I can, being honest with myself and pulling the band-aids off. One thing that I learned early on that I talked about earlier was dropping prices. That I learned that really early on. So like I tried to outpace the market with cutting my prices. So I was just trying to be the best house at the best deal and just open to make deals. And if it took losses, I didn't really care, because when you got 18 properties and a lot of money out like that, it's just like you just get rid of any and everything that you can. And then, you know, making money was kind of my second concern. But it is, I mean, what do you do, dude? Like your season, it's like, if you have a market, I mean, we legit dropped 20% in 3 months, 4 months. Like there's really not a whole lot you can do. And then last fall, like last winter, 2022, like November, December, it didn't matter what you were priced at. It wasn't selling. Like it just didn't matter. And it's kind of been similar this last like 45 days in Salt Lake. I've pulled all my stuff off right before Christmas. I was going to relist it today. But I think you just have to keep showing up and doing what you can and make the best decisions you can with the data that you have. But I don't really have like a perfect answer for that, because I mean, I'm in a tight spot right now. We got 10 or 12 deals we need to sell. Nothing's selling. Some will make money. Some are going to be losses. Some might be 6-figure losses. You know, just is what it is. I think another thing too, early on in my career, is like I would always be watching the expense spreadsheet, like, oh, and stressing like, oh, this much money is going out. We're going to have to. And at the end of the day, like the way that I run my business, maybe this is a little reckless, but it works for me. It's like, once I'm in a deal, I'm in it. Like I have to do the rehab that I have to do. I can't cut corners. Like it is what it is. Like it's going to cost what it's going to cost. I know and trust in myself and my team that we're going to get it done as efficiently as we can. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you got to do. And I'm not going to waste my time trying to, you know, have an $800 line item for $300 instead, trying to save $500 here and there. Like you just can't do that at scale. So just executing the best that I can with the data that I have and keeping it moving, and new, what new can we get coming in that's not going to be any sort of liability. You know, so wholesale deals, we did some quick, you know, we bought some stuff, turned around, listed it and sold it real quick, but just continuing to double down and show up. That was long-winded. I didn't really know how to say that.
No, you're good. And then can you talk about how you had to show restraint? I don't know if it was last year, but we were talking like, bro, I'm so used to doing deals. It is hard not to be doing deals and pulling the trigger, because then you had to show restraint and like, okay, bro, we're not going to throw more money back out on the street. Like we need to know when to like actually go back out into the market when we're ready.
Yeah. Well, it's hard too, because earlier we talked about the only way out is to keep doing deals, which is true, but it's like you got to do the right ones, you know. So, you know, I'm going to come back to my faith and energy and law of attraction. You know, I was throwing some bones throughout that process that kind of kept things skipping along. But being I'm really, really aggressive, but I'm also really good with finances, and I don't keep my, like, I knew I was going to be able to weather a storm as long as I got out of some of the deals. But when you're, like I was saying earlier, and I lost my track of thought, when you're used to doing better than the year before every year of your life, and you're 35 years old and you've done nothing but win, and then you're in a situation where it's like you spend 12 years working your ass off and building all of this momentum, dude, and you got this big flipping thing going on, you got mortgages going on, real estate, all of this shit going, and then you're just going to pull the plug and turn it all off. like I wanted to kill myself, man. It sucked that like it bothered not doing new stuff and not feeling like I was in the game and working and just sitting idle was harder on me mentally and emotionally than it was losing money on the deals. Cause it's like I'm losing money and I'm not doing anything now. That was really tough, you know? So it's like you do the stuff that you can that is going to be low risk and, you know, you're not going to be taking on any more liabilities, but it's hard to say no. And this is a relationship business. I don't have a marketing budget. All my deals come from relationships. And what was even harder is all these guys bringing me deals and I'm saying no. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck, they're not going to call me first next time. And that's really hard too, because a lot of times I'll buy deals that are like not even a great deal. I'll just do the deal to build the relationship because I know this guy can bring me a deal a month. I'll take a shitty deal to have him call me first every time moving forward because I know I'll close it in 2 days and be super easy. So it was really hard, man. I felt like I lost 12 years of momentum in my business and just like went idle for 6 months, 8 months. And then we finally got everything off, started buying again. I got 10 or 12 deals right now that we're flipping. And then the same thing happened with the market. So I feel like I'm in the same spot I was at this time last year. Not as bad, you know, like I think not nearly as rough as it was, but in terms of like it being slow and stuff not selling, and like I haven't been buying for the last probably 45 days. I was just like, fuck it, I'm not going to buy anything unless it's a, you know, super good deal. But outside of that, it's just going back to that minimizing downside and just trying to get in a better spot.
I love it, bro. Real quick, shout out Juan. He said Happy New Year's. This man is Mr. Fresno Deal Champs, our #1 supporter. I saw him on Facebook.
What's up, Juan?
Shout out Juan. He goes to every single thing across the state of California that we speak.
Well, let's find out. Juan, did you see me when I was speaking out there? We'll find out if he's at every event or not.
I would not be surprised if he was there, bro. He does not miss him.
I'd bet money that he was there if I had to. If I had money on the line, knowing how that man shows up, Juan's a good dude.
The man shows up, bro.
Yeah.
That, I mean, and he's probably seeing the results from it. But people, like for you guys listening right now, to have 3 guys like you have with this show, with their experience and holding these meetups and the spaces that it creates and provides, like it's free, or maybe, I don't know if you guys are charging, it doesn't cost a lot if it does cost anything, but like that is the most productive space you can be in is a RIA meetup in Fresno or wherever you guys are doing it. Like that's the best spot you could be. Like everything that you need is there, money, deals, and everything in between.
Hell yeah, bro. What else do you want to leave the listeners with?
Well, I mean, I've been posting about a little bit. I love New Year's, but I also kind of got a bone with New Year's because it's like new year, new me, and all this stuff. And it's like at the end of the day, until your habits change, and until you change, and until you start like doing something differently, nothing at all is going to be different, you know? So if you want to get into real estate, you can go do it. You got 3 dudes on here that didn't know anything about it and are all millionaires through real estate. And they all started green and they all started kind of the same thing, you know, just developing some skills and showing up. So that's what I would say. It's like, if you want to do it, just go be about it and do it.
I love it, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys,
I appreciate you guys, man.
Oh yeah, bro. For everybody listening, Mike, where can they find out more about you?
On Instagram at michael.burns, BURNZ. And then that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm on Facebook too, Mr. Michael Burns. I've got a podcast, Build a Lifestyle podcast, which talks about the mindset, self-development, real estate, business, kind of just everything lifestyle, which is my brand. I'd love to have each of you guys on the show. So we should talk about that off camera. But dude, what I'm a firm believer in is if you're just building relationships and trying to provide value, like everything that you need and want is going to come your way.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's the pod. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace.